The Alternative Corner, where we will follow topics of interest other than boxing. At October Red, we always want to engage with our listeners and accommodate what our viewers want to listen to. Feedback is essential. Feel free to tell us yours. Enjoy episode 11, where we discuss paragraph 372 to 382 of the completed libel case from claimant British writer, director and actor Noel Clarke versus The Guardian.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. I'm Abs of October Red. And yes, we are back on the Alternative Corner. It's a back-to-back video here. I've just done the one on Gets, but I wanted to get this one out about Noel Clarke. We've been following this story quite closely, and shout out to the young gentleman that approached me at the Joseph Parker Fabio Wardley press conference. So he was at a boxing event, but he's been listening closely to the Noel Clarke case and how I've been breaking it down, and was very complimentary. I just want to say a personal thank you, but a public personal thank you. I did thank you yesterday, but it just goes to show that people actually are listening to the content, and I really do appreciate that a lot. So salute to you, young man. I never got your name because, as you know, at press conferences, you're just scanning and seeing who you can get, because obviously I'm there to graft, not to socialise, but I really do appreciate that. So, right. The last time we spoke about Noel Clarke, because this is what this episode's about, it was the witnesses, and it got painful. I was like, oh, I don't know, this is a bit sticky now. Because, you know, at first we was laying out the case and how it had gone and kind of summarising it, but we started to get into detail. And I'm one for detail, but I'm one for fair detail. And this stood out to me. This is about paragraph 372 to 382. Yes, it's a short paragraph, so this one's going to be quite succinct, and it's based on the Louise Urwin and Davie Fairbanks section of the Noel Clarke versus The Guardian news and media judgment. Yeah? So, I need to break this down to you. So the judge cleared Noel Clarke of the Louise Urwin allegation, but strangely, the man who gave the false account wasn't discredited. We're going to get into that. In fact, the judge said he made an honest mistake. But how can that be when he got the event wrong, the clothes wrong, the parents wrong, and described an assault that the alleged victim and the accused both deny? So let's break this down and ask some uncomfortable questions. When does a mistake stop being a mistake and start looking like something more? Remember, Noel Clarke has been quite adamant that he feels like there's a little bit of a conspiracy against him. So, here we go. Davie Fairbanks, yeah. He said at the Not Rap party, the Not was obviously a production that Clarke was in, he saw Clarke approach Louise Urwin, also known professionally as Louise Dillon, while she leaned over a table to speak to her parents. Fairbanks claimed Clarke reached, excuse the explicitness, in between her legs from behind, groped her, then turned to him with a grin, as if to say, I can have anything I want. Now, this is the statement of Davie Fairbanks, but I need you to see something, and I'm going to have to go into the actual document now, because I did have it up, but it's disappeared. And it is... Right. I want you to know how it started, because it's important so you understand the whole issue around what I'm saying. Mr. Fairbanks. Here we go. We're nearly there. But this is important. I need you to hear this because I've just give you a summary. Mr. Fairbanks and Mr. Clarke used to be best friends. They are now, and have been for several years, intensely hostile towards each other. The principal cause of their falling out was a dispute over intellectual property rights in respect of Bulletproof, the merits of which were immaterial. They both described the relationship they once had as so close they regarded themselves as brothers. Mr. Clarke saying that in around 2011, Mr. Fairbanks was the person he regarded as my guy. They met and became close friends in 1999 when they appeared together in a pilot episode of, and then 6-part television series, Metrosexuality. They formed a company together with 2 others in around 2001 with the aim of writing and producing together. As Mr. Fairbanks said, Mr. Clarke's career took off following Metrosexuality, and the success of Kidulthood changed his career trajectory. Mr. Fairbanks and Mr. Clarke worked on a number of productions together. They were both writers and producers in the film The Knot, released in 2012, in which Mr. Clarke starred. Mr. Fairbanks was one of the writers, with Mark Small, of the film Stories 24, which was released in 2012, same time as The Knot, in which Mr. Clarke starred. Mr. Fairbanks and Mr. Small wrote and directed a Universal film, Legacy, which was released in 2015, on which Mr. Clarke was the producer. Mr. Fairbanks is also an actor, and he played minor roles in those films. While it is probable that, while they were friends, Mr. Fairbanks yearned for the level of success that Mr. Clarke was enjoying. Mr. Fairbanks' career was progressing, and I am not persuaded that he had or expressed to others negative feelings of jealousy towards his best friend. Let me just go back. It is probable that, while they were friends, Mr. Fairbanks yearned for the level of success that Mr. Clarke was enjoying. But I'm not persuaded that he had or expressed to others negative feelings of jealousy towards his best friend. In his statement, Mr. Fairbanks gave evidence that in the time I knew Noel, he enlisted me on several occasions to set up lunch or dinner dates with women that he had met through work or on set. He would ask me to book a hotel room at the same time as he intended to sleep with them. He referred to these as missions. He would ask me to make the relevant arrangements and pay up front so that there was no financial trail to his wife. So his wife, wouldn't see the bills and then reimburse me later in cash. Yeah? He exhibited text messages from occasion in July 2014, evidencing such an arrangement. Mr. Fairbanks recalled that this pattern began when he did this with Ivy short after working on a production, and it was the first of numerous times that Noel asked me to help with this pattern of behaviour. Yeah. So we have to look at their relationship. One of the things that Mr. Fairbanks admitted is that he actually liked that girl as well. The Louise Urwin, I believe it was. So we'll go into that. So we go back to it. Fairbanks said in court he saw Clarke approach Louise Urwin, professionally known as Louise Dillon, while she leaned over a table to speak to her parents. He explained a sexual assault, and then he said Clarke looked back at him with a grin as if to say, I can have anything I want. It is a serious claim, that is, because that's sexual assault, and there should have been a lot of witnesses there as well. But there was a problem. Almost everything in that story was wrong, and we're going to go on to what he got wrong. Fairbanks said it was the wrap party. It wasn't. He said her parents were there. They weren't. He described what she was wearing and got that wrong too. And most importantly, both Louise, the alleged victim, and Clarke flatly deny that this incident had ever happened. I think Louise was like, "Ill? No." I think that was her response. That's in the judgment. You can go and have a look for yourself. Urwin told the court that she was probably wearing jeans and not a dress. Her parents weren't at that party, and in her words, which were blunt, gross, that did not happen. By any common sense measure, that sounds like a collapsed allegation. But what happens next is what raises eyebrows, and it definitely raised mine, and that's why I'm doing a shorter, succinct episode for this. So instead of calling Fairbanks unreliable, at the least, or dishonest, Mrs. Justice Steen called it an honest mistake. She concluded that Fairbanks had probably seen something akin to what he described. Maybe Clarke moving behind Urwin, smiling at him, and then his memory filled in the groping parts. She pointed out the lighting at the gala was slightly dim. She said it was improbable that he would have invented such a story, knowing the alleged victim could contradict him. The key line in the judgment was this: it is unlikely that he would have invented an account, knowing that a person independent of Mr. Clarke would be able and likely to say it was untrue. That single line is where legal reasoning and common sense begin to part ways. And the reason why I'm saying this, and I'm going to go into it, here's the issue. Fairbanks didn't just misremember a vague detail. He gave a very detailed account: location, people, what she was wearing, and a physical act, and admitted that he liked her. He actually said, "I liked her." That matters because liking someone can be a motive, a lens through which you interpret things, or worse, a reason to manipulate a narrative. If a man has feelings for someone and watches another man interact with them, look, you know that better than me. What he perceives or chooses to perceive may not be neutral. So when the judge says, why would he make up this knowing that she could contradict it? The answer could very well be because people actually lie, because they exaggerate, and because emotional motives can be just as powerful. Remember what I said? This guy, the judge said it herself, he yearned for the success that Noel had. But I don't think he was jealous, and that was to negate this. Because that's what it sounds like to me. This guy sounded like he liked the girl. Noel was probably a bit petty with it, and he decided to maybe, I don't know, get him back. Look, it just depends how you look at it, but I cannot go through the whole judgment, all 1,000 and how many points there are, and not pick out the bad apples in there as well. It can't be just Noel Clarke did this, Noel Clarke did that, because that's not fair and it's not transparent. This is a witness that the judge has let off as saying it's an honest mistake, when Clarke has had people that were there on production sets and they said, I didn't see that happen, and she's dismissed what they've said. That's not fair, is it? It's not balanced. And it's almost like if it's for Clarke, they'll dismiss it, but if it's against Clarke, in this case, they'll mitigate it or they'll accept it. Yeah. And that's just the way I see it from reading through the documents. So this moment exposes a quiet truth about courtroom credibility. A witness who aligns with a judge's view or narrative can be seen as mistaken but honest. A witness who doesn't can be branded as unreliable or self-serving. If a defense witness for Clarke had got this much wrong, it was likely they would have been ripped apart on the stand and in the judgment. But Fairbanks got the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because the judge believed his intentions were good. But intentions don't erase the fact that he accused a man of sexual assault in detail and got it wrong. The person that he was supposed to have sexually assaulted said, gross, ill. No, he didn't. That wasn't that party. I wasn't wearing that dress and my parents weren't there. but that's deemed as an honest mistake. This is where the law and public perception collide. In court, a judge can say, I don't believe the assault happened, but I still think the witness is honest. Outside court, most people say if you accuse someone of something that's serious and it's not true, you lied. But you have to remember this is civil and not criminal. This gap matters because it shapes who gets believed, whose reputations gets destroyed, and whose narratives are protected. For the record, Clarke was cleared of the Urwin allegation, but Fairbanks' credibility remained intact, which meant his testimony in other parts of the case, like the Ivy photos, please look at the judgment for that, stayed powerful. Double standards. This raises the obvious question really. Why does the benefit of the doubt only seem to go one way? Why was the witness who gave an inaccurate, emotionally loaded, easily contradicted account protected, while the other witness, especially those who supported Clarke's, were treated with far less? Well, they were classed as not really credible. This isn't about whether Clarke was innocent or guilty overall, it's about consistency. In fairness, well, should it apply? It should apply to every single person in the courtroom. Now, if you look at it, Noel's back's against the wall anyway, because it is. How many witnesses compared to his 4,400 page document served from The Guardian to Noel Clarke? So listen, we know how it ended anyway. So why let this one thing go through the loop? And you know why? Because if she didn't let it go through the loop, then his credibility for the other evidence, which is the photos, would have also folded. Albeit there's evidence there, but it's about credibility. And you can't say, oh yeah, credible for that, not credible for that. Mr. Fairbanks forms part of this case overall. Is that fair? You can answer that in the comments. What happens in this part of the judgment is more than a footnote. It shows how credibility isn't always about accuracy. It's about how a judge reads a person's motive. Fairbanks got it wrong. Clarke was cleared, but the Guardian's case didn't take a hit because Fairbanks wasn't branded a liar. And that right there is what raises the hardest questions about fairness. When does a mistake stop being a mistake? When the person making it has something to gain, or when the court decides that it doesn't matter. So that's it. That's a quick part of that. We are going to carry on with more of the Noel Clarke case, but when I was reading and going through that bit stuck out to me like a huge red flag in freshly fallen white snow. I was like, nope, we've got to look at this as well. We've got to look at the details. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate all of the feedback, all of the comments, all of the opinions. They all count. I appreciate you guys that take the time out to listen to this. Like I said, there's going to be more. We're only up to paragraph 300 and odd from 1,000 and odd points. I am going through it bit by bit, and that will take some time. But hopefully you can digest it and understand the case fully. Like I said, Noel Clarke was arrested. I believe it was September the 25th. I can't remember the exact date. Back in September. Nothing's happened with the court case. Nothing's happened with the police. We don't even know why he's been arrested. That's been kept quiet. There's been some rumblings and rumours. But what you can expect here, guys, is a fair and balanced view. Whether it goes against what I believe, what I stand for, it has to be honest and it has to be fair. It can't be one-sided, it can't be biased. So on that note, have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to leave you to it. I've got to shout out my sponsors, SA UK, Maximum Security, Minimum Fuss. I shall catch you, hopefully all being well, on the other side. And as we say at October Red, stay ready.
Thank you for listening to The Alternative Corner. Most of our listeners have not yet subscribed. We kindly ask you for your support by subscribing to our channel and to share our content. October Red is sponsored by SA UK, Maximum Security, Minimum Fuss.